Look, we all think we know the story of Anne Frank, right? But for this explainer, we're going to zoom in on just one day. Not the 2 years in hiding, but the single terrifying day her family was literally forced to vanish. That chaotic 24 hours that just erased their entire world. It all started with a sound, a single knock, and just like that, on July 6, 1942, everything changed. That one sound was the trigger, the thing that started this horrifying, abrupt fall from a normal life into one of absolute secrecy and fear.
Yeah, because that knock, it wasn't just a visitor. It was delivering a call-up notice for Anne's older sister, Margot. Anne wrote about watching the color just drain from her parents' faces. In that single instant, they knew exactly what that piece of paper meant.
Right, so this wasn't some polite request. It was a command. The notice ordered Margot to report for so-called labor, but let's be real, everyone knew what that was code for. It was a one-way ticket to a concentration camp. And that's why the decision to hide, it wasn't even a debate. It was instant. There was simply no other choice.
So how do you do it? How do you just disappear from your own life? The family had to start these frantic but totally silent preparations. Think about it. You have to execute a complete vanishing act while you're surrounded by neighbors, and any one of them could turn you in. The goal was to leave an entire life behind without leaving a single trace of suspicion. It's mind-boggling.
This really shows the impossible choices they were facing that night. You can't take suitcases, right? That would look way too suspicious. So instead, they were layers upon layers of clothing and just stuffed the absolute essentials into school satchels. But then you have to think about what they left behind. And it's not just furniture. It's their neighbors, it's sunlight, it's the very idea of freedom. The difference between what they took and what they lost, it's just staggering.
Now, let's look at this from Anne's perspective, because for a child, this was even more terrifying. The family couldn't drive, they had to walk. And that walk to what would become the secret annex, well, it wasn't just a trip across town. It was the journey that completely shattered her childhood.
You see, this wasn't just about putting one foot in front of the other. It was a total psychological meltdown happening in real time. First, the city she knew and loved, it suddenly felt like it was closing in, becoming hostile. Then every sound, every single footstep just amplified their terror. And through it all, she, a child, had to put on this mask of calm, pretending she wasn't completely terrified. And somewhere in those steps, she felt it. This was it. The end of her old life. Her childhood was officially over.
And where were they doing? To the secret annex. But we have to be really, really clear about what this place actually was. This wasn't some cozy little hideaway. It was a silent, shadowed space built for one reason and one reason only: survival.
This line really forces you to confront the grim reality of their situation. The annex wasn't a choice they made for peace and quiet. No, it was the absolute last resort, a space just big enough to hold on to life, carved out of pure, raw desperation to avoid death.
And the difference between these two words, sanctuary and refuge, is everything. A sanctuary, that implies you had a choice. It implies peace, hope. But a refuge, especially this one, that screams desperation, confinement, and constant fear. They weren't seeking sanctuary, they were fleeing into a refuge. It's a much more stark, much more brutal reality.
And stepping into that refuge meant they had to accept a whole new kind of violence. Not physical, not yet anyway, but psychological. The violence of just being erased. Literally overnight, Anne had to stop being seen, stop being heard, stop being acknowledged at all by the outside world.
But here's the incredible thing. Even in this absolutely terrifying moment, Anne's spirit wasn't just broken. There's this amazing complexity to how she felt. She was anxious, of course, but also curious about their strange new home. She was frightened, but at the same time already showing this incredible resilience. As the world was erasing her, she was already finding something to hold on to.
And that right there is the crucial point. In the face of losing literally everything, her home, her friends, her freedom, her very presence in the world, she instinctively knew there was one thing left that she could control: her words. She somehow sensed that her diary, that little book, would be the one thing to carry her through the suffocation of her new invisible life.
And that really brings us to the final question, doesn't it? For Anne, the answer was her voice, her words, captured on paper. But it really makes you think. When a person is erased, when every external part of your identity is stripped away and you're forced into silence,
what's left to hold on to?